Which video game franchise should be revived? Swiss Cheese said, Mercenaries. Love the mechanics of those games. Hateful Face Licking said, Legend of Dragoon and the Chrono Trigger series. Warrior said, No one lives forever. It's been ages, and I'm much older so my tastes may have changed, but I recall it being funny and actually fun, with enjoyable stealth mechanics and decent shooting. Edit, well, shit, if I knew this was going to blow up I'd have put more effort into writing it. But glad to see it struck a chord. Uli said, Splinter Cell. The monkey's paw sits ready on that one. Any new Splinter Cell game is going to be a modern Ubisoft game, which means an open-world game designed to extract maximum profit from the player by forcing them to choose between an extended grind and microtransactions. I would love for another Chaos Theory, but I feel like it can never happen again. Beach Sunflower said, What I loved about SSX3 was the sheer absurd arcade Uber system and points that you would accumulate. It was addicting trying to fit in the most spins, rotations or tricks to get super Uber. Like that feeling of just pure momentum and power from getting all your tricks lined up one after the other was chef's kiss. Aside from that, it's had a super deep customization system for a game like this with stats and cosmetics and various playable characters. Really great to be able to unlock mountains but then upgrade your character to take it on, whether you spin fast or handle better. My only fear is that, being an AI title, there is no doubt in my mind it would never come back the way we'd imagine. You're going to get microtransactions out the ass for things like cosmetics or even stats. God forbid you introduce loot boxes into the franchise. Omega 3233 said, Discovering Dark Cloud 2 completely blew my mind with how much content it had. It's insane that nobody has tried to copy the formula with modern technology. Lots of modern crafting dungeon diving games are similar, but it's like, DC2 is still the better game even after all these years. Challenging dungeons, crafting, photography, fishing, golf, a full-fledged city builder with customization, fun storyline and cutscenes, time travel, good graphics for the time, plus other things that I'm sure I forgot. Just listing them out loud I'm like holy crap, that game was amazing. Robbie40 said, The Jedi Knight series I feel like doesn't get enough credit for the platform gameplay, especially Academy. I would love to see more. Edit, thank you so much for the awards. Glad to know there's plenty more of people like me out there who miss and replay old JK games. Phantom Hatstrap said, If this doesn't happen in the next few years, then Konami is just leaving money on the table. The last few Resident Evil games, of which 7 and 8 bear some definite PT inspiration, prove that AAA horror games can be successful and massively lauded, and considering the fact that SH and RE are basically the two Titan OG horror franchises, I think developers would want to pick up the gauntlet that Capcom has essentially thrown down. Domlight said, The game world was fucking massive as well. The city in Jak 2 was already gigantic, and then Jak 3 added various areas of the wastelands which were an order of magnitude bigger than that on top of it. The first game was pretty damn sizable too. They kind of hit a high note for 3D platformers collectathon style games. Honestly, that whole genre needs to make a comeback. There was something so satisfyingly simple about wandering around huge areas trying to hunt down all the various tokens and achieve certain goals to unlock the mega tokens that let you progress further in the game. Mario 64 and Banjo-Kazooie Banjo-Tooie kicked off the genre and it only got better from there, with series like Jak, Ratchet and Clank and Sly Cooper just perfecting it with deep stories tied to all of the exploring collecting. I really want to see a revival of AAA titles from major studios that follow the same pattern and don't lean on ridiculous difficulty Souls-like combat to push more sales. Just deliver us a huge world that's unique and fun to explore, lots of fun ways to explore it, a cast of lovable characters and a good story to motivate us to go exploring for those various MacGuffins. Gaming need not be something massively complicated. Just fun. UbiMark said, Infamous is such a console seller for me. I'd like to have a PS5, but I haven't been too broken up about it yet because there aren't many PS5 exclusives that I feel like I'm missing out on. But if a new Infamous game comes I'll be watching these PS5 drops like a hawk. But also, I really just want an Infamous collection release on Steam. Would love to play through 1 and 2 again, But I sold my PS3 years ago assuming they would eventually be ported over, and then it never happened. Kodaga said, I need another Infamous game. I'm happy for Sucker Punch and their creation of GOT, but I'm begging for their next focus to be on Infamous. I go back and play the first two all the time. Even Second Such brings a weird nostalgia to me. First Light is so incredible on its own. Dude, I was so heartbroken to see them not have a new game ready for the PS5. I knew they still were probably focused on GOT, but I thought maybe they would at least show they had a plan for a new installment. But nothing. I'm not saying they won't in the future, but I'm saying it's been so long that I've been deprived. I think it's my favorite video game series and my favorite fictional world. Knife Hits said, I've been saying this for years. Change the setting from a small private school to a big public school in the suburbs. Expanded the social cliques feature beyond just preps, nerds, and jocks. Bring in the punks, goths, rednecks, skaters, stoners, rich kids, etc. One of the coolest features of the original game was how literally every student had a personality and unique features and an in-game opinion on you which you could influence. Keep that, multiply it by 100. Your player character is a new kid, a troubled orphan living in a group home. You get to keep the strict curfew game mechanic, and the walled garden safe house structure. The map is a busy suburban corridor surrounded by seemingly endless cul-de-sac neighborhoods in various states of decay. There's weird Easter eggs in the surrounding woods. The player tries to get through their classes and navigate the complicated social strata, ultimately falling in with the wrong crowd. Marauder said, I did. It was fun, and it has more voice acting story. I think the puzzles were more difficult in Portal Reloaded though. Portal stories, Mel made you think outside the box and do some tricks you don't find in the other Portal games, so there's definitely some real aha type moments where you figure out the trick to a puzzle. PR though, you kind of end up with 5 portals in each puzzle. You have your regular orange-blue, but then the time portal, and then another orange-blue in the other timeline. In addition, the fact that changing something in the past makes it change in the future, but not the other way around, meant that every puzzle had a lot going on for it. Absolver 5000 said, Burnout was a racing series but a significant part of gameplay was causing other racers to crash. Fully destructible cars and environments. There was even a play mode where you got to launch your car down some sort of ramp, varies a bit by map, and into traffic and you get points by causing the greatest amount of damage. Very fun. Edit. Geez guys, I'm glad so many other folks enjoyed this. I am humbled by the awards, kind strangers. Nambit said, I would love another proper Burnout. Burnout 3 was, without question, the best racing game on the PS2, and 4, Dominator and Paradise were also all very solid titles. But AI just decided to move the Burnout developers onto the Need for Speed series. After all, why have 2 different arcade street racers, right? And sure, some of the titles Criterion made for the series, such as Hot Pursuit, were well received. It's just not the same. Need for Speed is what happens when a game publisher watches a bunch of car modders doing donuts in a Tesco car park, after watching a Fast and Furious movie and tries to replicate it in video game form. Yes, mechanically it's similar to Burnout, but all of the aesthetics are different. Need for Speed was baked into real-world cars and modding, along with some R&B hip-hop grime dubstep, and a bunch of dodgy 20-somethings evading the cops because family or whatever. Burnout was not that. Burnout was pure arcade fun. There was no story, there was no effort to capture an aesthetic or pander to a subculture like Need for Speed. Burnout just had a rock soundtrack and wanted you to have fun. There were no characters, no story, no real-world cars or worrying about car specs or customization. It was just purely here's the car, head for the road, here's your opponents, turn the radio up and enjoy. It's that aesthetic difference that matters. I never cared for Need for Speed because I was never into the whole car modding illegal street racing scene. But Burnout was just arcade fun with a soundtrack I could rock out to, and I wish it had got a true sequel after Paradise. Nusab said, Chromehounds. It was an awesome Xbox 360 era mech game where you would custom build your mech and then have team battles. You could play anything from quick scout matches, super heavy gun platforms, or a commander mech with a radar dish that let your team talk with each other without having to capture a communication tower, and each had their role in team fights. There were 3 factions, each with their own style of matches and new equipment being researched every so often, and their borders changed daily depending on which faction was winning more battles. There were a lot of neat concepts and the gameplay was solid, and I'd love to see a sequel. Inkachu said. From 1994 to 2011, 17 years, Bethesda released 5 TES games on 4 different generations of hardware. From 2011 to 2021, 10 years, Bethesda have released 9 editions of one TES game across 6 platforms. If we assume TES 6 won't be released until 2025 at the very earliest due to Starfield development, then it's going to get pretty close to being further away from Skyrim than Skyrim is from the launch of the first Elder Scrolls. A MS-fucking-DOS game that predates the PlayStation and N64. I'd like to think it's an outside chance, but it is absolutely possible. Even so, it shouldn't even be this close. Cake Boner said. X-Wing. Why LucasArts left all that money on the table is fucking beyond my understanding. People just want to do the trench run. Update it, and just cash the checks. Destruction Derby. It's just plain fun. And I had 2 pitches for new games. One was shot down in the 90s for being too imitable in real-life board fighter. You just smack each other with different boards. Of course then Grand Theft Auto came out where you could beat a prostitute and steal back your money. Not imitable at all. Shitbox racing. Exactly what it sounds like. Pintos, Gremlins, old Lincoln 60s to 80s beater cars. Slow and stupid. Anyone wants those ideas, fucking go for it. Nambit said. I mean the only way the series will be fixed is if a game that has lots of things that made the old ones good sells really well, while one of the newer entries completely flops and consumers cite the oversimplification of the game as the main reason why they didn't buy. On an unrelated note, the re-release of Diamond and Pearl bring back a game full of highly explorable areas and lots of complexity and branching pathways to the world is coming out as soon, as is Legends Arceus, which looks to be built from the same engine of the lackluster Sword and Shield. If one of these was a massive flop it would highlight what type of game consumers preferred. The Extra Mayo said. Jade Empire is an underappreciated gem from BioWare's golden age. It had a great story that's largely affected by your decisions with a karma system, open palm closed fist. It had martial arts-based combat with multiple hand-to-hand and weapon styles to learn. Even secret unlockable ones. Lots of those nice little secret interaction side quests to find by searching every corner of the game. It multiple romance options, even a gay arch from a time where not a lot of games let you do that. You could even convince 2 characters to agree to a love triangle with you if you play your cards right. You could call it BioWare's Fable, but that doesn't do it total justice. Biter Winsbeard said. Not a franchise, as it's only one game. But Nintendo released a game for the Famicom Disk System called The Mysterious Mirasimi Castle. It was sort of a sister game to The Legend of Zelda as it was developed at around the same time and built on the same engine, but it's much more action-oriented. It didn't leave Japan at the time and never got a sequel, but the game hero, Takamaru, has appeared in other games like Smash 4 and Ultimate, obviously, Nintendo Land, Samurai Warriors, and most recently, Mario Maker 2. The game was made available to the world on the 3DS Virtual Console and quickly became one of my favorite 8-bit games. I would absolutely love to see a modern Takamaru game. Hulk said. Mario. Just hear me out. A fully expansive, free-roam, storyline RPG, in a Mario universe. You can be whoever you want, you can do whatever you want. The world is filled with quests ranging from working for the kart manufacturers to help build your own kart, to racing for the world championship. From saving a small town princess from the local castle, to taking on Bowser in the biggest castle in the game. You have currency, you can buy things, your character upgrades, you have character class customization, Easter eggs are all over, and there is some multiplayer aspect. And it's all in third person. Mirosian said. The Savage franchise. An extremely unique set of games, with beasts versus humans in asymmetrical battle that was surprisingly well balanced. It was essentially an RTS, with the commanders placing buildings and structures to increase resource generation and defenses while protecting their base. However, the units were players, playing something like a 3D MOBA. The battles could be huge, with matches of up to 50, I think, players in 25 versus 25 combat. But it could be scaled down as well, for an easier competitive scene. The commanders gave orders to their players, pinged locations and strategies, demanded vision in certain areas. A good commander would allow his team to absolutely destroy the opposition through strategy, while relying on the skills of his players for the individual battles. A good player could easily take on 5 others and win, being a huge asset for their commander. Miroshan said, map control would reward the players with new units, some that specialized in sieges and building destruction, others that specialized in PvP combat, or even scouting units that could place vision and stealth. When a player died, they would respawn with a unit of their choice. If esports had blown up when Savage 1 or 2 were in full bloom, I guarantee they would have overtaken League of Legends as the most fun to watch game. Every game has died within a year or two, because the company in charge never fixed basic issues and essentially gave up on their game as soon as it was released. Truly tragic. Severe Dentist 3589 said this one may be a hard sell to some people, but I feel like the Final Fantasy XV world was dreadfully underdeveloped while also showing great promise at the same time. Even with the DLC and extended media, the world never felt like it reached its fullest potential. I thought they'd maybe make a prequel at some point, but then the guy directing the brand randomly up and left, so all the DLC planned was cancelled, and they made it clear there was still more of that world to be had even after all that. I've always felt soured from all that. I know this isn't exactly what you asked for, but with me anyway. Franchises that I consider dead are still successful but don't hold anything of what I valued anymore, so I've just stopped buying them, so I've put up what I think is the closest thing to it. Didries 120 said, Mercenaries, Playground of Destruction. Laser marking airstrikes and unlocking various kinds like carpet bombs, bunker busters, cruise missiles, gunship support, etc. was wild. Being able to call in an airdrop for a tank, APC, supplies, or even a helicopter was awesome. If I remember correctly, you could even order NPCs to join you in a tank heli. The amount of vehicles was mind-boggling, and everything's had so much effort put into it. Way ahead of its time, and probably was one of the most fun games of childhood next to Timesplitters FP. Here's a video of all the airstrikes. https://yahoo.be/3jsplhf8wxy. Darth Revan Reborn said, Metal Gear. I know it hasn't been that long since the last one compared to other mentions in this thread, but MGS2 was the reason I bought a PS2. MGS4 was the reason I bought a PS3, and MGSV was the reason I bought a PS4. I know it wouldn't be the same without Kojima, but I was basically constantly looking forward to the next one since I was 12 years old. Feels weird that there aren't any new entries on the horizon anymore. P4 as said, Guitar Hero Rock Band. Those just still feel like the pinnacle of rhythm games to me, and nothing since has come very close to that feeling. Sure, you got your stuff like Beat Saber, which is insane fun, but requires you to find the well-tuned songs, or even something as abstractly fitting as Sekiro, but I just kinda wanna jam out on a plastic guitar to some well-built tracks. Clone Hero kinda works, but you often feel how just a little of that extra polish from a real game is missing. Avatar off Discord said, Skies of Arcadia was a poor bastard. Fun as heck, but got put on a dying console doomed to fail against the PS1, and faced off against Grandia 2 and Evolution, the world of Sacred Device. Got a chance to be revived when it was ported to the GameCube, and it faces off with Tales of Symphonia. Doesn't help there was talk of a sequel and it didn't happen. http://archive.video-games-daily.com/soj_int_2003.asp. Oh, but why stop with one Sega game when I can talk about Rhythm Thief? Professor Layton of Music Games. Great story, fantastic music, main character pulls off a fedora without looking punchable, and took advantage of every single feature of the 3Ds like it was WarioWare. It ended on a cliffhanger, and the next game was the original but for mobile phone, and it was so bad Sega took it off the App Store. Hey, race what one of the reviews described Paris Caper. The original 3Ds game is sacrificed on the altar of microtransactions and grubby monetization, almost erasing any sense of fun in the process. Praetorian said Free Space 1 and 2, Space Sim single player with a really rich storyline and some incredible voice talent. You're in a little fighter, kinda Elite Dangerous style, for the whole game, but every now and then you get moments of oh my god, look at the size of that thing. Missions were awesome, weapon loadouts etc. It had everything. The in-game metal cabinet really got me hyped too. With new games now, I sometimes catch myself saying I would have loved this when I was a kid. For me, Free Space was the thing I loved as a kid. Zanky said, Guitar Hero. I adored that game so much. I still play it on my Wii pretty often. The last one sucked. They changed the button positions and I never got into it. Guitar Man. I have it on the Vita and played the hell out of it. I really want more good rhythm games. A lot I enjoy are Japanese only and don't even get an app on the App Store. I was so happy to get Taiko no Tatsujin on the Switch. I just wish it had more songs, had the Attack on Titan theme like on the PS4. Lieutenant Wolf said, Akami. Please? I know Monster Hunter Rise just got an Amaterasu-themed Palamute costume, and it's great that Capcom continues to acknowledge the franchise's existence with HD remasters on PCs and consoles, including a great Switch port, but I really hope that a fully fledged sequel can come along soon. It's such a beautiful, humorous, heartwarming and heartbreaking game, and I think it's criminally underrated in the West. I know a sequel, or at least, a good one most likely, would need Hideki Kamiya working with Capcom again, but I can dream. Crimson Lemon said, I know that 1.13, Strixie and a bunch of other mods exist, but I think Jagged Alliance could use a solid reboot. JA Rage was probably the closest recent attempt to feeling a bit like JA and JA2 did, but is severely lacking in depth emo. Though I understand that a straight remake will likely not do too well with the modern gaming crowd, I still think there has to be a way to give it a bit of call improvement while maintaining the bits that made the game a classic for many turn-based strategy gamers some time ago. Strat14 said, Sock'em. But don't revive it. Just get the servers for Sock'em 2 back up and running. Advertise that PlayStation 2 can be bought second-hand for a fraction of the price as PlayStation 5. And we can save the planet by not demanding the creation of new plastic. Screw it. We all know that newer and shinier is the only way to make money because the general population is full of mindless idiots intent on destroying the planet, and that they don't care how much actual fun they're having even though it's not new and shiny. The station agent said, Castlevania. I mean, they just wrapped up a successful anime based on it, so it's at least on people's minds. Plus, in the years since it stopped, Metroidvanias have taken off in the indie space, so clearly people still want them. Hell, even Metroid is getting a conclusion to the series with Dread, and eventually we'll be getting Prime 4. There have been rumors, insider leaks, that point to Konami wanting to return to games by letting Western studios take on some of their IPs. If FromSoft made a Castlevania game after Elden Ring, I'd basically die happy. Although that's a total pipe dream. Maybe one of the more successful indie devs that have been making Metroidvanias could take a stab at it. Shadow Thetaman said, it's not necessarily a franchise on its own. But Resident Evil, Outbreak. Now hear me out. Yeah, I know re-spin-off games don't have the best record, but Outbreak was years ahead of its time. It had 8 different characters, each had different abilities, perks that they brought to the table. It was essentially a multiplayer puzzle co-op survival third-person shooter. You had a zombie virus in you that would tick up towards 100%, getting damaged made it tick faster. As well as you had a health bar on top of that, you could suppress it with antibiotics. And if you went down, it would start rapidly climbing until 100%, then you'd turn into a zombie and could chase down the people who were playing with you. Project Resistance could have been much better had it been put into an Outbreak idea rather than an asymmetrical 1v4 game. Being able to go through campaigns L4D style, with the Re2/Re3 remake camera and controls, would have been nice. Solving puzzles, dealing with limited inventory and trying to get through the campaigns before you turned. In today's networking and game design, it'd have been amazing. Plus they have so much more content to work with. Re4 Village stuff, Re5, Re6, Re7 Baker House. It could be a masterpiece. If you've never heard of Outbreak, look it up. It was an amazing spin-off for its time. It was just a generation too early.